Using wisdom with patience is how we gon' defeat them. Remembering Revelations 13 to 10. And check ourselves daily, making sure we don't sin. So rock too, have temptations every now and then. But take a deep breath and endure it to the end. John 14 to 6, the truth and the life. So you can't get to God unless you going through Christ. 46, 47, and Deuteronomy 32 for your children. It's not a vain thing for you. And why? Cause the commandments is your life. Yeah, we starting all over again. The commandments is your life. So don't run away from this. The commandments is your life. Yeah, we starting all over again. The commandments is your life. So don't run away from this truth. Hey, grace and peace, family. This is Allon Judaea. And the title to this lesson is The Spiritual and Physical Appearance of God and Christ. So brothers and sisters, make sure y'all get your pens, your pencils, and your pads and take notes and go back to study the scriptures that's being provided in this lesson for yourself. All right, first thing first, we're going to start out with Colossians chapter 1, verse 12. It says, giving thanks unto the Father, which have made us meet to be partakers of the inheritance of the saints in light, who have delivered us from the power of darkness and have translated us into the kingdom of his dear Son. All right, so we know they're talking about Jesus Christ. Verse 14, in whom we have redemption through his blood, even the forgiveness of sins, who is the image of the invisible God. All right, you see that? It says, who is the image of the invisible God. We have verse 15. The firstborn of every creature. All right, so Jesus Christ was the firstborn of every creature. All right, he was there first before any creature. We just read that Jesus Christ is the image of the invisible God. Let's not forget that word invisible, okay? John chapter 4, verse 24. God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. Okay, you see that? So God is not flesh. He is not a human being. He is a spirit. So let's get that right, brothers and sisters. So God the Father is a spirit that is invisible. All right, according to Colossians chapter 1, verse 15. Okay, and he cannot be seen by the human eye. His son, Jesus Christ, looks like him. So let's go to Psalms chapter 90, verse 2. It says, before the mountains were brought forth, or ever thou hast formed the earth and the world, even from everlasting to everlasting, thou art God. You see that? So God existed before time and creation. That's what this is saying. Before the mountains was brought forth, or ever thou hast formed the earth and the world, even from everlasting to everlasting, thou art God. Meaning he was before creation. He was before time. That is also why he is called the Ancient of Days. Let's go to Daniel chapter 7, verse 9. So in other words, God always existed. All right. Daniel chapter 7, verse 9. I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit. You see that? So God, the Ancient of Days, meaning God was before time and before creation. He was before days. All right. And it says he did sit. So in order for God to sit, he has to have a bottom, right? So anybody that says that God doesn't have a body, they are a liar, okay? It says the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow. So God had on a garment. So in order for God to wear a white garment, he has to have a body to put it on. So once again, anybody that says that God does not have a body because he's a spirit and he's invisible, they are liars. Okay, let's read on. Whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. God has hair like the pure wool.
So let's read a definition of wool. Okay, the definition of wool. It says the short, crisp, curly, or kinky hair of the head of some persons as Negroes. You see that? So God have hair like Negroes, also known as black people. Okay, so black people have woolly hair, and God have hair like wool. Okay, so let's read on. It says, "And the hair of his head like the pure wool, his throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire." His wheels are identified flying objects in Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 14 through 16, that moves like a flash of lightning. Today, we call them unidentified flying objects, also known as UFOs. Let's go to Revelation chapter 4, verse 2. Revelation chapter 4, verse 2. "And immediately I was in the Spirit, and behold, a throne was set in heaven, and one sat on the throne." So the person who's talking here is John the Revelator. All right. He said that he was in the Spirit, not the flesh, the Spirit. Okay, let's remember that. So this is what it meant when he says in Daniel the 7th chapter, the thrones was cast down. Okay. It says, I'm going to read it again. Revelations 4 verse 2. "And immediately I was in the Spirit, and behold, a throne was set in heaven, and one sat on the throne." Verse 3. "And he that sat was to look upon like a jasper and a sardine stone." You see that? So a jasper and a sardine stone are brown colored stones when you do the research. Okay, they have like shades of red and a little shade of yellow. Okay, brown colored stones. All right. It says, "And he that sat was to look upon like a jasper and a sardine stone," which means God has a brown color. "And there was a rainbow round about the throne, in sight like unto an emerald." Okay, an emerald is like a shiny green color. All right. So the only people on earth with this color today as jasper and sardine stones are people called black people and Africans. Okay. So this is the color of God the Father in his spiritual form. So let's read a biblical description now on the height and the glory of God. Let's go to Exodus chapter 33 and verse 17. Exodus chapter 33, verse 17. "And the Lord said unto Moses, I will do this thing also that thou hast spoken, for thou hast found grace in my sight, and I know thee by name. And he said, I beseech thee, show me thy glory. And he said, I will make all my goodness pass before thee, and I will proclaim the name of the Lord before thee, and will be gracious to whom I will be gracious, and will show mercy on whom I will show mercy." Verse 20. "And he said, Thou cannot see my face, for there shall no man see me and live." You see that? So God's face is so powerful that no man can look at it and live. All right. Verse 21. "And the Lord said, Behold, there is a place by me, and thou shalt stand upon a rock. And it shall come to pass, while my glory passes by, that I will put thee in a cliff of the rock, and will cover thee with my hand while I pass by." You see that? So God is telling Moses that he's going to pick him up, all right, put him in a cliff of a rock, and then cover him with his hand. Verse 23. "And I will take away mine hand, and thou shalt see my back parts, but my face shall not be seen." So God said he will put Moses in a cliff of the rock and cover him with his hand while he passed by. So obviously, God is a colossus. He's a giant. Okay? And he is bigger than the size of life. And his face is so bright and powerful that no man can look at it and live. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 40, verse 22. All right, Isaiah chapter 40, verse 22. It says, "It is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth, and the inhabitants thereof are as grasshoppers." You see that? So everybody on earth are the size of grasshoppers in the eyes of God. All right, so that means God the Father is huge. Okay, God is a giant, invisible spirit with the appearance of a black man with woolly hair and a garment white as snow. All right, that's Colossians chapter 1, verse 15, as we read earlier. John chapter 4, verse 24, where it says he's a spirit. Okay, and then we're about to read Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 26, where it talks about he has the appearance of a man. And Revelations 4, verse 2 through 3 talks about him having the color as a jasper and a sardine stone. All right. Let's go to Daniel chapter 7, verse 13. Daniel chapter 7, verse 13. "I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man." So this one like the Son of Man is talking about right here is Jesus Christ. All right. That's stated in Revelations 1, verse 13. One like the Son of Man. It says, "came with the clouds of heaven." Okay, that's Revelation chapter 1, verse 7, where it says he came with the clouds. "And came to the Ancient of Days." Okay, the Ancient of Days, that's God the Father. "And they brought him near before him." All right, verse 14. "And there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed." All right, so let's take a look at this for a moment. It says he was like this, he was called the Son of Man, right? Ezekiel was also called the Son of Man when you read Ezekiel chapter 2, verse 1. Why? Because he was an earthly man in the flesh. Jesus was called the Son of Man also because he was an earthly man in the flesh. Jesus is like the Son of Man now because he is in his spiritual form with the appearance of a man. I'm gonna say that again. Jesus is like the Son of Man now because he is in his spiritual form with the appearance of a man. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 26. All right, Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 26. "And above the firmament that was over their heads," that's talking about the sky, because as we go outside and we look up, what's over our heads? The sky. So that's the firmament that it's talking about. So it says, "and above the firmament that was over their heads," meaning above the sky, "was the likeness of a throne, and the appearance of a sapphire stone. And upon the likeness of the throne was the likeness as the appearance of a man above upon it." You see that? So God the Father has the appearance of a man, not a woman. All right, let's go to Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. Genesis chapter 1, verse 27 says, "So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them." So the appearance of man and the character of man is the image of God. All right. The woman is not the image of God, but the glory of man. Let's prove that with scripture. 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 7. For a man indeed ought not to cover his head, for as much as he is the image and glory of God. But the woman, here we go, is the glory of the man. You see that? That's 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 7. It says the woman is the glory of the man. So only a liar will say that God looks like a woman. All right? Jesus was called the Son of Man, once again, because he was made a man in the flesh. Okay, as it is written in Hebrews chapter 2, verse 6 through 9. Then jumping down to verse 16 through 17. Jesus is like the Son of Man now because he's in his spiritual form with the appearance of a man like his father in Ezekiel 1 and 26. Not a woman. All right, that is a lie. Let's go to John chapter 14, verse 8. John chapter 14, verse 8. Philip saith unto him, Lord, show us the Father, and it sufficeth us. So what Philip is asking Jesus is to show him and the disciples what God the Father looks like, and it will satisfy them. Okay, it'll make them happy, in other words. Verse 9. Jesus saith unto him, Have I been so long time with you, and yet hast thou not known me, Philip? He that hath seen me hath seen the Father. And how sayest thou then, show us the Father? You see that? So Jesus like, how can you say show us the Father when he that has seen me has seen the Father? So basically what Jesus was telling Philip is that any man that seen him in the flesh have seen the appearance and the character of God the Father. All right. So any man that have seen Jesus in the flesh have seen the appearance and the character of God the Father. All right. So if anybody say that nobody seen Jesus, they are all liars. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 3 through 8, it states that he was seen by the 12 disciples, 500 brothers, and all the apostles. So the image of Jesus in his earthly form was the image of God in his spiritual form. Let's go to Revelation chapter 1, verse 1. Revelation chapter 1, verse 1. The revelation of Jesus Christ. So this means, the word revelation means to reveal. All right. So this is the revealing of Jesus Christ, which God gave unto him to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. And he sent and signified it by his angel unto his servant John. So this is John the Revelator. Verse 2. Who bear record of the word of God and of the testimony of Jesus Christ and of all things that he saw. All right. So John the Revelator saw Jesus Christ in his spiritual form, as stated in verse 10. Okay. John said that he was in the spirit on the Lord's day, not the flesh. He was in the spirit. That's in verse 10. Let's go to verse 13. And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man. Okay, that's stated in Daniel chapter 7, verse 13. Clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. Verse 14. His head and his hairs were white like wool. You see that? So this verse is describing the spiritual form of Jesus, having hair like wool, not woolly hair. All right. Woolly hair is earthly flesh, which Jesus had when he was in the flesh. Like woolly hair is the appearance of woolly hair, which he have now in his spiritual form. So just imagine an animated cartoon figure, right? Imagine an animated cartoon figure of a black man with woolly hair. His hair would be like wool because it's illuminated in a spiritual form that can't be touched by human flesh. All right. So Jesus have hair like wool in his spiritual form.
And I turned to see the voice that spake with me. And being turned, I saw 7 golden candlesticks. And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. His head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire, and his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace.
Let's keep reading. As white as snow, and his eyes was as a flame of fire, and his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters. You see that? So burn with an ed is past tense. So if you burn light brown brass in a furnace, the color afterwards would be a dark brown color.
Yeah. Ezekiel 16 to verse 10, all the way down to 14. The Most High had us looking so clean, like some real kings and queens. Brought at work with fine linen, iced out from head to toe. But these heathens took it all. Joel 3 verse 5 and 4. Man, Esau so dirty, but I ain't got no worries. Till Christ come and fry him, we go cut him up cold turkey.
Which was the color of Jesus Christ. Not white, not pink, but dark brown. From there, let's go to Daniel chapter 10, verse 5. Daniel chapter 10, verse 5. Then I lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, a certain man clothed in linen, whose loins were girded with fine gold of Uphaz. See, we read this earlier in Revelations 1. Verse 6, his body also was like the beryl meaning green. Okay, so he had on a green garment in this verse. This is the vision that Daniel saw of Jesus Christ. Verse 6, his body also was like the beryl, and his face as the appearance of lightning, and his eyes as lamps of fire, and his arms and his feet like in color to polished brass. You see that? And the voice of his words like the voice of a multitude. So Daniel had a vision of Jesus saying that his arms and his feet were like in color to polished brass, meaning a dark brown color. So-called black people were once called colored people, and they have woolly hair. From there, let's go to Hebrews chapter 7, verse 14. Now we're finna get into the physical appearance of Jesus Christ. Hebrews 7 and 14 says, for it is evident that our Lord sprang out of Judah. Let's stop right there. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 14, verse 2 now. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 14, verse 2. Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof languish. They are black unto the ground. I'm going to read that again. They are black unto the ground. I'm going to read it one more time. They are black unto the ground. So Judah, the real Jews, are black. Period. It says, and the cry of Jerusalem is gone up. Meaning the cry of them is gone up into the heavens. All right. So let's read a definition of black real quick. Definition of black. It says, a member of a dark-skinned people, especially one of African or Australian Aboriginal ancestry. Okay, you see that? So the Jews and Jesus were dark people like the dark soil beneath the ground. Only in the King James Version Bible, the word black is recorded here in Jeremiah 14, verse 2. But in most of the other Bible versions, the word black is removed. Go take a look for yourself and think about why that is. All right, this is why I personally stick to the King James Version. Now let's read some scriptures with our senses to show how Jesus was a black man in the flesh. Let's go to Matthew chapter 2 and verse 13. Matthew chapter 2, verse 13. And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise and take the young child and his mother, meaning take baby Jesus and Mary, and flee into Egypt, and be thou there until I bring thee word. For Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. So Herod was a Roman, all right? He was a white man, and he was seeking baby Jesus to kill him. So now let's get this right now. Ancient Egypt was inhabited by dark-skinned people, where Joseph was told to hide Mary and baby Jesus. Now Herod was a white man. So how could Joseph, Mary, and Jesus hide around black Egyptians if they were white people like Herod? Okay, obviously they were dark-skinned people like the Egyptians. That's the only way they could have hid in Egypt, all right? Verse 14 says, when he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night and departed into Egypt. Verse 15, and was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken of the Lord by the prophet, saying, out of Egypt have I called my son. You see that? So God called his son, Jesus Christ, out of Egypt. Let's go to Amos chapter 9, verse 7. Amos chapter 9, verse 7. Are ye not as the children of the Ethiopians unto me, O children of Israel, saith the Lord? You see that? Have not I brought up Israel out of the land of Egypt? So the Israelites are brown colored people like the Ethiopians and dark skinned people like the Egyptians. Jesus was called out of Egypt, so obviously he was dark skinned like the ancient Egyptians. Hopefully this lesson was very inspirational and edifying, brothers and sisters. All right, the title once again to this lesson is The Spiritual and Physical Appearance of God and Christ. All right, so y'all look out for the next lesson and make sure y'all study the scriptures that are being provided. With that, I say grace and peace.
A trooper came to beat him, made a peace treaty and cheat him to defeat him. But we coming back to beat him at the last. That trooper came with flattery, with his mean strategies. Was the United States cavalry. That is Genesis 49 and 19. Psalms 55 and 20 through 21 seems sad. But in the Israelite, the Indians stood up as the tribe of Gad.